Hare Krishna. We got Charles on board. Thank you, Charles, for joining us. We got Ankur. Please show us your faces if you can. Arjuna, we know you're probably driving. What can I do? Wow, look at Charles. Wow, he's beautiful. Look at it. Arjuna, there you are. Woo!
Hi, Krishna. I got off a little early today, so.
I'm so glad to hear that. So glad to hear that. And of course, we got Nitai Priya. Yay. Haribol. So I guess we can just get started with our studies, with our exploration on Bhagavad Gita, the divine conversation. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shriyavadi Paschatati Satarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Haribol Dharma Prabhu. Thank you. It was nice to see you there at the funeral. Things went okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice job done. All right. So let's go to our page 1 from the introduction of our Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandasya.
Om Jnana Timirandasya.
Jnananjana Shalakaya.
Shalakaya.
Chakshuranmilitam Yena.
Chakshuranmilitam Yena.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkest ignorance.
I was born in the darkest ignorance.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
And my spiritual master opened my eyes.
With the torch of knowledge.
With the torch of knowledge.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
I offer my respectful obeisances
unto him.
Good. So we'll ask our host, Vaishnavi, if she could just lead us on to our text for today.
15.1, Maharaj.
Yeah, we're in a new chapter. Woo-woo. Okay. And this is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. And we're going to find this interesting, an analogy or an allegory. So let's go for it. I'll do the Sanskrit and the English, and then we get some people to read onto the purport. How's that? How does that grab you? Okay. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Urdhvamulam Shakam Ashwadam Rahur Avyayam Chandangsi Yashaparanani Yastang Veda Savedavit. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Hare Krishna. And please give me another half a minute before we start reading. Hare Krishna. Okay, do we have some people lined up, some fortunate souls who get the chance
Someone
to
chant
read?
Hare Krishna, please.
I think Vaishnavi is frozen.
I can start reading then, if it's possible.
Yeah, go for it.
Purport. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. Should I continue?
Oh, yes.
The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end. And for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns means for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it.
Okay, great. So let's have someone else carry on then, please.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, go. Okay. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living entity's activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation.
Thank you so much. Very good.
Next.
Hare Krishna. Now, there's no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward, but there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. We can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real world, the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it.
Very good.
Okay.
Next, Vice.
Yeah, who'd like to go next?
Vaishnavi, is she with us or is she lost?
Vaishnavi lost her connection, but it looks like Dharandev Prabhu would like to go next.
I'll read Maharaj. Now, this tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahman to be the root of this material tree. And from the root, according to the Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then 5 gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, and then 10 senses, the Sandriya, Kama, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is a manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. Shall I stop here?
Yeah, it's a good place to stop. Thank you. Do we have someone else?
Hare Krishna. The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have same variegatedness, but in reality, therefore both Prakriti and Purusha must be there. In the spiritual world, however, Prakriti is the Supreme Lord's internal energy and Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Purusho sa parapartha. The difference material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that the person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows the process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world.
Wow, it's good. It's a beautiful purport, right? Quite poetical and just quite philosophical as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for reading today. And so we're just entering into the 15th chapter. Today it's a kind of a special day, I guess you could say, for that reason. And we're just talking about the Supreme Person. Ultimately, that's what we're going to get to. But to get to the Supreme Person, we have to deal with his world. And his world is an entanglement. And it seems that most of us have to be like little monkeys jumping from one branch to another. And some of these branches are compared to part of the Vedic culture. Karma Kanda, for instance, is the section of the Vedas that dwells on materialistic pursuits. And as Prabhupada has put it here, he said there's actual 4 stages that one goes through. There's Dharma, which means to have a regulated life and to be very principled. Artha means, establishing yourself economically, accumulating and so on like that. Kama is the 3rd phase, which means I got all of this, I have all these objects, I better enjoy them now that I have them. And then finally, when you get exhausted with all this material acquisition, you say, I want moksha. I've been there and done it. I really just want a simple life and to be relieved of all of this. Where do we find such a tree that's described here? Urdhva Moolam. That means with its branches down, its roots up. Well, a banyan tree is like that. Is there anybody ever seen a banyan tree? If you go to Miami, Arjun's closest probably to. If you go to Miami, where Prabhupada stayed, he walked under this whole banyan section. What do they call that place? It's by Peacock Park. Just thinking about the place where the temple is situated currently. What do they call that neighborhood? Anybody can help me?
Coconut Grove, Maharaj.
Yeah, Coconut Grove. So just in the Coconut Grove area, there's a bunch of places. There's a street which has banyan trees all along, and it takes you along the ocean side. Kind of nice. They've got a lot of, let's say, private schools along the way. I'm sure the real estate is super high, all that kind of stuff. But there's also a big banyan tree in the backyard of our Honolulu temple in Hawaii. And beautiful pictures were taken of Prabhupada and his disciples there. And the tree is still there. These trees last a long time. And from the branches come aerial roots. Those roots start to gravitate down, hit the soil, and form a new trunk, if you will. It's one of the most mystical trees you're going to find. Totally dreamy. And that is the nature of the material world as well. It's a dreamy place, and you can find it very exciting. When we're kids, We like to climb trees. I mean, kids in the past, I don't know if they do that anymore, but we used to climb trees. And we just find it so thoroughly intriguing. Intriguing. And going from one to another. But we have to know that they are entangled. Another way to understand this topsy-turvy tree, which means upside down, is that if you go to a pond of water and next to it is a tree, and in the reflection, the tree seems to be upside down, but it seems to be very real. At the same time, that's the nature of the material world. It's full of Maya, it's full of illusion, that which is not, but it looks real. In my walking, especially through Ohio, where there's a lot of farming going on, most farmers accommodate, they dredged an area so that there would be like a lake, a pond. I guess maybe it's for irrigation purposes. But you also oftentimes find a tree next to it. So when I'd walk through these areas, I'd be thinking of chapter 15 from the Bhagavad Gita, and I'd look at the reflection of the tree in the water. I think that looks like a real tree, but it's not a real tree. And so that's what we're dealing with. This world, which is designed to get us a little bit entangled, is it's like a tango dance, right? Tango, does anybody know tango? In Argentina, it's one of the places I go to. And it's the home of the tango dance, you know. And when people dance in a tango, it's a little bit, they're very attached, they're very connected with each other, and involves various moves. We are supposed to cut ourselves free from the banyan tree that's described here, this material world. And we can do that by way of getting familiar with the Vedas, but not all of the Vedas. Some of the Vedas entangle us more, but there are the Vedas, especially the fifth Veda, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Puranas, that really can help us to establish love, Love, in the highest degree, called bhakti. And so that's a little bit what the tree is about. We're not to get too entangled in it, but we can admire it, but it's not an end in itself. And it's suggested that you have to cut down this tree of entanglement. And it doesn't sound great to cut down a tree, to be honest with you, but some trees are hazardous. In one of the ravines that I walked through here in the city, they have come, they say that that Manitoba maple tree does not help with the erosion. Well, actually, it augments erosion. So it's an invasive tree. And so the few that are there, they pull them out. Trees are meant to stop erosion. I think everybody understands that dynamic. So you want to put plants, trees in areas where when there's a heavy rain or wind and flooding, you want trees that will hold with their roots, hold everything in place, hold the dirt in place. So some trees are favorable, some are not, you know, and it's a form of management, tree management in the cities. They sometimes have to take out trees that are highly infested with beetles that are chewing it up. They just want to get rid of it. And elm disease is another thing that will damage forests and so on like that. So somebody, I guess, can say, let everything be natural, let it take its own course. But humans also have to be factored in, just like beavers are factored into the whole, you know, landscape. You know, humans also play a role in helping to control and somewhat manage tree operations. So you have to manage yourself. You have to manage yourself. You can't just say that there's some virus that's come into, oh, let it be, it's natural, it just came to me of its own course. No, you actually have to fight. You have to get rid of these the little aliens that come and damage you, and even to the point of killing you. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Those are just some starting notes. So, Prabhu, if you have any questions or comments on that, please open up, unmute, and raise your golden hand.
I have a comment, Maharaj.
Please.
It was just in the purport when it was discussing about how, the tree being the reflection, and how the reflection, actually what we see in the tree, in the water, is closer to like reality as far as that goes. But so in that sense, it's like, it's upside down, that the roots are the spot that reaches up toward the spiritual world. Like you were saying, like that's where the roots come from, is from the spiritual world. So I find it an interesting analogy as far as seeing the divine in nature. It's like a little hint, like if the roots are coming from the spiritual world, and we look at the world and the beautiful natural existence that we have from Krishna's design, the roots are all toward the earth. And nature and the earth is indicative of the purest form of spiritual energy in the material sense that we actually have. And you as a walker, of course, experience this on the daily. And I just found it to be a very interesting analogy, a reminder that, hey, if you need to look up, look down.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, here the roots are compared to, Brahmaloka, the higher planets. But even still, the higher planets aren't the be all and end all. They also become dissolved at the time of dissolution. So one should not become too enamored by even what makes the tree beautiful. The roots in this case, yeah. But the roots are there because of Krishna, and sort of peering at the roots or thinking about them, because you can't always see them, helps us to think about Krishna. So then that's good. Have any of you ever been in the forest and you walk on the roots that are kind of exposed? So you really have to watch your step sometimes. So the roots are there to remind us of the source, and that's what a tree should be doing to help us to get to the source. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. In the beginning of or actually the verse itself, I have a quick question. I don't mean to.
That's okay.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is said that there's an imperishable banyan tree." I found that interesting, that Krishna says, "It is said." Do you have any insight on that? Because it's a little confusing to me in a certain way.
Well, but that kind of terminology, I mean, I can just express it the way I understand it, is that it is said. That means that scholars have said, there's a general, understanding, or it is understood. It's just, Krishna offers that kind of terminology sometimes in Prabhupada's translations. He talks about, it is my opinion. So many people say so many things. Those are very fun. So it is said, well, it is true about the banyan tree. It has its roots up, but not all the roots are up. They come down eventually, isn't it? They come down. So it's a complex tree, and it is, because it's complex, it's a very good, explanation of what is the material world. I'm just, I grabbed Ranchor's simplification of the Bhagavad Gita, which I do sometimes. I'll look at that. I know it's looking backwards to you, but my godbrother, he put this together to make it very simple. The subtitles, Talks Between the Soul and God. He uses the same translation right in the beginning. It is said there is an eternal banyan tree with roots above and branches below, whose leaves are the secret hymns. One who knows this tree understands the sacred wisdom. He puts things in simple terms, There's no harm in looking at this presentation. It was not meant to challenge Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. It's just a smaller book, easy to carry and easy to share with others, if you want to sometimes clarify things a little bit. And Ranchor Prime is his name, and he's from the UK. He's quite a scholar. Yeah, so he uses the same terminology. It is said there's an imperishable banyan tree. Okay, and this is not, this particular banyan tree represents the material world. But the best example we can have of the entanglement and the complexities of life is in this particular tree. There's no other tree like it. So I don't know if I made sense of what I just said here, and what I just said about it is said.
Yes, Maharaj, it made total sense. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's an entangling one, but this purport is jam-packed with information about this tree. The tree is also compared to Prakriti, the external energy, and Purush is the internal energy. Purush is God himself, the Supreme Lord. I guess we can say that we learn a lot from plant life. And just today, I met a couple who have been very big on looking after gyr cows. It's an Indian breed. And they first got the cows, they put them in an old barn. The barn got dismantled. They put up a new barn, with state of the art. It's heated in the winter, which is what those cows kind of need. You press a button and then everything gets washed clean naturally, and runs down the end of the barn, and you've got this, water mixed with manure. They got an incredible system. So they have been looking after the animals, but now they're spending a little time on putting up a greenhouse. And I congratulated them. Thanks so much for taking care of animals. Now you're getting into the plants. So the plants bring us closer to home, where everyone should spend a little time by the trees, by the garden, I believe. And recently they did a whole survey, a study on the happiest people based on individuals who come from different career backgrounds, occupations. And they found that the happiest people in the world are the farmers. They're the farmers that, generally speaking, they're the happiest people, which stands to reason they're by the earth, they're with the plants, they're in the elements. They highly depend on what the sun and the moon does and what the clouds offer. And they're oftentimes people very close to God, So it's a career option that people don't consider very much, even amongst devotees, because there's hard work. People don't want to do hard work. Have you noticed? Yeah. So I think it's beautiful that the Bhagavad Gita will bring on something about a tree. Has anybody ever been to the spot where the Gita was spoken at Kurukshetra? Nobody's been there?
No, me, Vasanta, because I used to live in Delhi. So,
Okay, so you've been there
Kurukshetra,
before.
yeah, Kurukshetra is very close by.
Yeah, there's a tree there.
Right.
And fortunately, ISKCON's got a property there and a project there close to the spot where it was all spoken. But there is a tree there. And you would think normally that a battlefield, it's like they're like plains, it's open space. That's where many battles have taken place in the past, you know.
Yeah.
Because south of the Himalayas is Kurukshetra. And generally it's fairly flat, which was ideal for horses and chariots and elephants to walk through and so on like that, where it was conducive for the combat. You know, you don't have too many trees, but boy, I think everybody loves trees, isn't it? And you can learn much from them. Well, so many experiments have been done. Trees are very communicable. They communicate with each other. They blend in with each other. And some of the best forests are the ones where you have a variety of species. Unfortunately, we can't get banyan trees up in Canada. You lucky folks down in Florida can get them.
I think, but there are no banyan trees in northern India. It's eastern India, western India, and southern India. Lots of banyan trees.
Right.
For not many banyan trees in I think Kurukshetra and all.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's
that is a little bit north, I guess. All right. Any other comments about this tree?
Maharaj, I have one question here. In the purport, in the paragraph 2, Prabhupada says here that the tree's root grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. Could you expand this one?
Well, the banyan tree is unique because its roots are up in the air, right? They're coming out of branches. They sprout from branches. So we're to understand that Brahmalok is up high in the cosmos. It's the highest planet. It's the planet of, let's say, extreme enjoyment, ultimate enjoyment. It's a high-end place in the cosmos. People just have a good time. They're pretty relaxed and enjoying life to no end. So we're to understand that the trees or the roots from the banyan tree are up high, and this is why it's compared to Brahmalok. Because if you have roots, then you have a plant, then everything will sprout from there. So it's Brahmaloka, where there's a high intensity of enjoyment, is pretty much the place of where everything starts materially, and everything goes downward from there. Yeah, so eventually those branches or those roots, they come down to, as we discussed earlier, form thick branches and roots. I mean, trunks of trees ultimately they become something else. But that's how I understand it. It's the root cause of more entanglement. Like if you look at a maple tree up here in the north, it's very clear. The branches and trunk are above ground, and the roots are down under. And when it comes to a banyan tree, it's a little different. A maple tree will remain as a maple tree, but a banyan tree with its complexities becomes what seems to be like a forest, a collection of many trees. It can be very confusing. When I went to Kolkata some years ago, I went to the botanical garden, and the tree was planted during the time of the British rule. And this particular tree had over 1,000 trunks,
Wow.
but it was one tree. It was just one tree. And the plaque that was there, you could read it. The original trunk was no more. It had vanished. It had, well, let's say, it dissolved. It just was destroyed. You know, it had its shelf life. So this is the best example to explain what is the material world, the banyan tree, with its myriad formations. And when I walked through that tree, I felt like I was in a forest, but it was clearly one tree. One trunk was connected to another trunk, which was connected to another one and another one like that. It's very intriguing. Intriguing. Yeah. Shall we go on to the next?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Let's go to the next. It's a little bit more about this tree. Let's, Vaishnavi, are you with us now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, yeah. Oh, quite robotic in a certain kind of way. So let's get some people just to go for the Sanskrit, the English, and then we've got two purports, two paragraphs to the purport. All right.
Uday, can you take over?
No.
Yes. So should I select someone or should I read by myself? Okay, I will just read the Sanskrit shloka. Hare Krishna. Adhas chodhvam parastasya sakha guna pravardha vishaya pravalha adhascha mulani anusattatni karmanu bandhini manushya loka. Translation: the branch of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vasanta Mataji, can you read? Or, okay.
Hare Krishna, me? Vasanta?
Yes, please.
The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities, human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are the higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Rasraj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the branches are the senses, the ears, nose, eyes, etc. which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are byproduct of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. The tendencies towards piety and impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Hare Krishna.
Nice, yes. So a few points are that the branches, they go up, they go down, they go in all directions. So this clarifies the point that there's a lot of complexities to this world. Another point made is that things start with Brahmalok up to the top, up at the beginning, and then everything else manifests from there. As you know, if you study the Vedas, you study the Bhagavatam, Brahma was here first, and then human beings came later. And so that's another point we want to make. One thought that came to my mind is that God is giving this analogy to his student to help understand the entanglement of this world. It's a nice analogy. It's Krishna's delivering it. It's nobody else. I mean, he's the most poetic, and he's helping us to understand that the world is like this. It's complex. I think that's really the best word that I can give. The 24 elements that make up this world, the modes of nature, which are 3, the sense objects, the senses, the subtle sense, the mind, the elements, all combined together, they make 24 components to the world. And so that's a long enough list. And we have a chance to travel through all these experiences through the various planets. We might be grounded with the earth, thinking, I've only had this one experience, but apparently we've gone through many planes of existence, many atmospheres we've gone through. We've lived in water, we've lived on land, underground, in the air, and there's no limit as to where we have resided in different bodies. But we are all enveloped in this material world, which is compared to a big tree. So if you do look at a tree, like right now, I am looking at a tree. I'm looking outside. And I don't know if you can see anything of this. I often see squirrels, raccoons, blue jays, birds of different kinds. And so the tree is able to hold many different species. Like there's small ones that I can't even perceive myself. They're just so tiny and they're like camouflaged. Like in Vrindavan, you have all these green trees and you have green parrots. And they just fly in there, they just kind of merge. They're camouflaged. But you should know for certain that in some trees, you'll just find so many different creatures sharing the space. And I don't know if you've ever seen those African clippings, like a monkey runs in a tree and a leopard runs in after him. The monkey jumps off the tree. Sometimes it's a baboon. He jumps off the tree, then he climbs up the tree, and then the wild cat goes after him and usually gets him in the end. And sometimes you have this monkey at the end of a branch, and a big cat is after him, just trying to grab him, but he can't, because if he does, he'll fall. And sometimes he will fall. So both the baboon and the leopard, they fall. And then who knows? Anyways, it's from the tree, much shelter is given. And also from the tree, which often as we can see the, let's say, express it as the tree of life. There's also many features of death on the tree. Hare Krishna. Trees do die, by the way. The material world does dissolve at some point. And that's when Shiva does his amazing dance and plays the damaru. When everything's dissolved, all the elements come and swallow each other. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Any other points, Bruce, you'd like to cover?
Can I say something, Maharaj?
Yes.
You know, I was working today and I saw this older woman, and I haven't seen her for like 3 months. And I said, you know, we were trying to reach you. Where you been? And she said, you don't know what happened to me. She said her husband died. Well, her ex-husband, sorry. Her boyfriend died, her mom died, and then her aunt died. And she said she was, you know, devastated. And I said, and I told her, you know, the only thing sure in this life is death and taxes. But I said, you know, just think about God, because, you know, I didn't want to say anything deep. You know, I just said, God is with you. He's always with you. He knows what you're doing. So just keep thinking about him, meditating on him. And I say, God is with you, because she was really like suffering. You can tell she was, you know.
Did she feel revived after you spoke to her?
No, I mean, she laughed a little bit when I said death and taxes is the only thing insuring this material planet. But other than that, I mean, she was just feeling sorry, because, you know, like she's kind of old, and she had like a younger guy. I guess, you know, she was proud of that. But you know, Krishna takes everything away, so she was just devastated. You know, all these people died in the sum of 3 months. We were trying to reach her, you know, like she's a patient of ours, and I was like surprised that she actually picked up the phone.
Well, that was very nice of you to reach out to her and try to give her some hope. That's fantastic. Great. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Yep. Trees have, I walked through the forest in San Francisco, near San Francisco, where there was I was with Anuttama at the time. And on one side of the little ravine we were on, there was one ecosystem. And on the other side of the valley, there was a totally different one. They were just in the same valley, but because of the way that the sun hits one and maybe missing the other side most of the time, you have this incredible, you know, diversity, or let's say trees on one side, and some of them very tall, and you know how some of them grow and live to be 1,000 years, or you know 5,000 years, even since the time of Lord Krishna. It's pretty amazing. Good. Anyways, if I could share for you, since we're talking about trees, Nitai Priya knows I wrote this poem about trees. Can I pull it out for you?
Yes, Maharaj.
Sure.
Okay. It's not, it's just a secular poem, but it does glorify trees. There's nothing spiritual in it, but I just had to write something for my friends who are not into Krishna. So, but if you can appreciate trees, I think you'll get closer to him. All right, hold on. Okay, here we are. How's everyone doing today?
Good, very good.
All right. I'll just get to my spot here. After our little discussion today in regards to trees, I think we'll be looking at them a little different now with greater depth, I would imagine, right? So here we are. And you could respond. It's kind of like a question. After every paragraph, trees. What hugs the soil and keeps it in place, teaches tolerance, especially at the base, provides us company when down and lonely, is a true member of the earthly family. Answer?
Yes.
No.
Trees.
Trees.
What cuts the wind when all is tossed in the air, which resembles a turbulent mind enough to scare? What emits a sweet scent at dusk and at dawn, and has sap flow at winter's end when spring is on? Answer.
Trees.
Trees.
What gives warmth in cold and coolness in heat? And what eats and drinks by their very own feet? Give shelter with shade at a blazing sun's prime. What will never let you down in the very worst time?
Trees.
Trees.
What stretches up to touch a gorgeous sky? And what is home for species that fly? What provides restfulness and a place of refuge for feathered and furry friends during a deluge?
Trees.
What dances in breezes in awesome rhythm, makes music of creaks, moans, and bitsurism? What can cause a surge of adrenaline, conserve fire and hydrogen and oxygen?
Trees.
Trees.
I can tell you what saved my life multiple times. Their arms reached out to mine on a steep climb. More than once, I took to a slippery slope when there seemed to be so very little hope. It's not a question, but still you can say it.
Trees.
Brilliant. What are the soft hairs jutting out of the universe, yielding healing powers like nature's nurse? What requires our stewardship and service, a chance for their well-deserved catharsis?
Trees.
Some are alive, some are dead, some are green, some are red, some bear fruit, some bear nuts, most have wood for their very own guts. Some have needles, some have leaves, know it for certain, they're here to please.
Trees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we just have a little more time. Let us go through the group of us and give me in 4 words your reflections on what we just went through on chapter 15, verse 1 and 2. Okay. Like, what's your takeaway? So, Vaishnavi, would you like to take us through, comb through everybody here?
Yeah. Dharma Prabhu.
Yeah. My takeaway, Maharaj, is desire, cause of attachment.
Desire, cause of attachment. Thank you. Yes.
Arjuna.
He stole my words. I was going to say desire cause karma.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Very good. Excellent.
Kasaraj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I have 2 takeaways. First is this material world is based on desires. So
Okay.
second is these are hairs of Lord Vishnu. So we can remember Lord Vishnu just by looking at trees.
Nothing. I just
Very good.
light on.
Yeah. We don't want any barber to shave this to shave the Lord bald. Okay. Thank you. Who else?
Anand Sesh, do you want to say? I mean, your mic is open. So if you want to say, go ahead.
Yeah, just came.
Ankur?
I don't have anything to share at the moment.
I don't have anything to share. Okay, all right, 6 words. That's a little bit breaking the rules, but thank you.
Sorry.
Guy Gaura Das?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Vedic study is to understand Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Jai.
Charles, are you able to say anything or no? That's okay if you're driving, that's all right. Nita Priya?
Trees.
Trees.
Okay, all right. That's it all.
Vasanta?
Hare Krishna. The cause of all our sensations, our mind, intellect, the cause is hidden from us, just like the roots of the trees are hidden from our sight. So they emanate from spirit world.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Guy?
Material creation is convoluted. Like I'm just
Okay.
keeping it 4 words. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. You achieved your goal.
Yeah. It was very hard to keep it in 4 words.
All right.
So I'm not sure if anybody else, I missed anyone, but for
What
myself,
about Ananta Shesh there?
he joined
Oh.
very, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Ananta Shesh, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you,
something
Daniel.
is wrong with the power and Wi-Fi at home. That's why I'm not there. So, well, life is complicated like banyan tree.
Okay. Yes, truly. That's very well spoken. Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much, Bruce. We'll get together next week, next Thursday. Should be okay for me. I am going to be traveling. I'm just trying to think a little ahead of time, but yeah, my travels are not until the 26th from what I see here, which is on Friday of next week. So we should be okay to all be together. All right.
Yes, Maharaj.
Ralph was with us, Maharaj, the whole time, but somehow he cannot, his audio is not working, so he cannot say anything. So
He's excused. No problem.
Charles, last call. Are you, maybe you're driving, that's all right. Okay, Haribol.
All right, Charles. Thank you very
Gosh.
much. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So please accept my humble obeisances. And Nitai Priya, maybe I can, I'll just call you in a minute or so. All
Yes,
right.
Maharaj, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna. Hare Hare.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.